Hey, Kenny here, and I wanted to share a little bit of what's going on in the garage because I've been away, at least off the YouTube for a bit. But there's lots of news on what's going on, all things two wheels in this garage right now. And I'm going to go and start the Bullet 350 oil change, just thoughts on that soon. But just a little update on what's going on in the garage. I've got my e-scooter, and it's a little e-scooter here. It's not super crazy, but this is my main mode of transportation for back to school. I try to score free parking at my work, and I pack this in my trunk, and I take it in to park at my campus. So the back tire has had a leaky issue. I put that liquid slime stuff in there, and it seems to be holding up pretty good. So fingers crossed that it holds out. But if it doesn't, I think I'm just gonna fill it with that like slime. And it's 2-in-1 sealant, tire and tube slime. Just take out the valve core, goober it up in there, and I'm willing to fill all the way because I really don't want to buy a tire for that. We've had an issue with the rad power bikes. So we went out and biked around Peely Island for a bit. And oh, by the way, this drink here, I'm gonna take a sip because I haven't had this in quite some time. I mean, I've been working in the garage. Just finished the Bullet 350 oil change. That's all done, and I'll expand on that in a little bit more following these short clips. But grape soda water, so good. I don't like drinking grape soda anymore because it's just liquid sugar and it rots my teeth. It feels like it's eating my teeth out. So, great substitute. Oh, and we took our trailer, our Rad Mission, and the Rad Runner out, and the Rad Runner has had an issue where the power got cut out. So I've isolated the problem to the battery cradle. So basically the power that runs into the controller here. Now the reason it's missing here is because it's been swapped to my Rad Runner, because this is going to be the main mode of transport for the kids, hauling them to school, and it needs to be up and running. And I've stripped that from the Rad Mission, and it's all interchangeable. So I've got the cradle at my local e-bike mechanic, and he's going to try and solder on some new wires, hopefully get it working, because I don't need the entire cradle. And I called Rad Runner, Rad Power Bikes about the cradle, and it's not in stock. So I got to find a way to work around that. But I don't know. I'm really debating on whether or not I want to get it soldered back on. I thought about it, and I was like, I really don't have a choice. But hopefully it all works out, and I get the soldering done. So yeah, a lot of things on two wheels with issues. I will expand a little bit more on the Rad Power Bikes on how that gets fixed. But Bullet oil changes, I have some thoughts, and we'll get to that. Okay, just doing a little setting up here. When you do oil drains on this Bullet 350 or Classic, you would want to ideally use a small pan. So I put my small pan I eventually used a smaller pan in a bigger pan, just so when I empty the smaller pan from the oil, I can see if there's any leftover material. The big pan, which you'll see me picking up here, is the pan that the smaller pan sits in, just because I didn't want to create this huge mess in the middle of my garage. And that's usually reserved for my car. So here are the things you need. An 8mm socket. It's to get the main drain plug with the oil strainer out, and a 17mm socket for the second drain bolt. I'm not sure what the second drain bolt is actually meant for.
maybe it's like a emergency quick oil change thing, but you need a 17 mil bolt for that. A hex set, I forgot which size you need, but that's for removing the oil filter cover on the right side of the engine. A torque wrench is preferable, and the only thing I ever actually worry about torquing up is the oil filter cover, because you don't want it to be like too tight. I've already also snapped off the bolt on the oil filter cover, so I'm very mindful of that part of the procedure. But generally, working on a motorcycle, a torque wrench you ought to own. And you don't really need a big torque wrench, just a small one that allows you to do, torque up to like 80 pounds is probably more than enough. And what is super handy too, if you are looking to get a cheap, affordable torque wrench, is to get yourself one of those electronic torque adapters that go on a normal wrench. And it basically gives you like a torque reading. I don't think it's meant for anything super heavy duty, but it's perfect for the case of using it on a motorcycle. 2 jugs of oil, 15W50, all the AMSO, requirements, and I think some funnel rags, brake cleaner, oil pan. And that's pretty much it. So here I am getting my setup ready. I'm using Spectral oil, and I've got my oil filter. The only thing I didn't install on this particular oil change is the O-rings, and my mechanic basically mentioned, well, the mechanic at my shop basically mentioned, if you're doing all oil changes, unless there's an issue with the O-ring or it's really old, it's generally okay to keep using the existing ring. And I've done that in the past. I've used existing copper washers, and I know like some of you guys are like, it's one use only, but you assess it as you go. That's sort of my rule here. You don't have to replace every little thing if you don't want to, but make sure the things that you are replacing, are going to be in working condition and they're suitable to get the job done. So why do I like and enjoy wrenching on this bike? Because it's just a bike that begs to be wrenched on. It's super simple. Honestly, the only thing that I dislike about doing all these oil changes is removing my sump guard, the little bash plate at the bottom of the bike. And the sump guard, surprisingly, has a very good feature built in, because if you have the bash plate mounted on the bottom of this motorcycle, if your motorcycle drips oil, you're just going to know. You shine a little flashlight underneath your bash plate. You look at the gap between the engine and the bash plate, and if it ever drips oil, it's going to show up there, and you just know. And even if you have oil there existing, and you wipe it off and you do another test run, if it drips new oil, you're just going to know. And that's just kind of one of the cool things about having those bash guard plates. I don't necessarily believe in using it. I don't think I ever will use it to actually prevent, large rocks getting in there. But it's a nice thing to have. I enjoy it. Having that. I like having it on, basically. So I'm going to get a little bit zen here, but it's essentially just like, why do I like working on this bike? And it's just like, it's a motorcycle that begs to be worked on. It's super simple. It's mechanical. It's tactile. You get a little bit of feel-good vibes and understanding how things work on this bike. And I don't know if you guys have read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, but there's a part where they talk about quality. And I kind of equate this to quality of life versus standard of life. And the thing here, the logic here is that if you always aim for a higher quality of life, you never have to worry about the standard of life. And it's one camp or the other. And I equate this into teaching too, because when you are in a teaching environment, and I'm talking especially university, college, you're going to find two camps of students. One, campus students that will just absolutely do the bare minimum to get by and get up grade or pass. That is the end goal. And the other campus students that really, really, truly want to learn and not only just achieve, but thrive. And those that achieve and thrive never worry about their grades. And it's just quality versus standard of life thing. And to kind of sum that down in how I treat my motorcycle, one of the favorite weird things I love about doing motorcycle maintenance on my own is that I get to see how everything works, and I take a lot of pleasure and satisfaction in like going into the crevices under the engine and cleaning up those little bits I never see. That's like one of my favorite things about motorcycle maintenance and taking care of things. Like, parts of the engine frame that's never seen the light of day because it's got the sump cover over it. I just love cleaning bits and pieces like that. And then just having a thorough check on everything gives me that peace of mind. And I know a lot of people talk about like freedom, the sense of freedom and what a motorcycle offers you when you're out riding it. But honestly, when I'm maintaining it, I'm doing it on my own time and being as efficient as I can with it. I don't rely on other people's schedule to bring it to a shop. I don't rely on like parts availability because between these oil changes, I seek out the parts on my own time, and it's just efficient use of my own time. One of the things I love about car maintenance too. I'll tell you a little quick story, but like briefly, when I did bring my car in for inspection, it failed the test because my brakes were not in order. So I basically said, hey man, like during this inspection, can I take the car away and replace the brake pads myself? Came back. Having done that, I saved myself $1,000. So my motto for maintenance on vehicles, cars, all things mechanical is do what you can, because when the big bills do come, and eventually will come, you don't feel as bad paying it. So as far as doing these oil changes, super easy. I had this GoPro camera set up, and it took me about an hour, and that's including like 10-15 minutes of just waiting because you want the oil to completely drain. I'm changing my oil here every 5,000 kilometers. And having done that, having looked through the oil pan and looking through the strainer, no issues with any particles, bits being loose in the engine. The oil was perfectly clean. Spot on. No metal components in there at all. As far as the strainer goes, and I think I'm just putting things back here, but as far as the strainer goes, the only thing I use brake cleaner on is the strainer, and that's just because I like to kind of bring it upside down and then hose it with brake cleaner just so I can get any loose particles out of the strainer. But for all the other metal parts, I basically wipe things down. Like the plates, I wipe it down with a clean rag and I put it back on. Here's a tip for you. Don't ever use brake cleaner in a solo cup because the brake cleaner will eat right through that solo cup. So here I am topping up the oil in the filter, and I like to do this thing where I put it in and I don't fully submerge it. I submerge it right to the little top, and then I swish the oil around the filter to get it soaked up. And it makes it for this very easy install because there's no oil on that. So I'm putting the oil, the cover back on. I did manage to snap this bolt once, one of the bolts, and the nice thing about that is that the bolt itself is, even if you do strip the bolt and the head comes off, you can usually get to the rest of the bolt because it's kind of recessed. So I was very lucky there. Just putting things together. Yeah, it's a quick and dirty commentary on doing your own oil filter change on the Bullet 350. My torque spec here, 10 pounds. for the bolts. And, there's nothing more satisfying than getting all this done and starting it back up and see how she sounds. So, yeah, a little quick and dirty spiel on and thoughts on, doing routine maintenance on your own motorcycle, and in this case specifically the Bullet 350. Here's putting the oil back on, putting the clean oil, very satisfying. What I like to do is fill to the top of the drain, the indicator. Obviously, you're going to find all this like step-by-step online somewhere else. But the one thing I should mention, if you are checking the oil, make sure it's on a center stand and make sure that you are looking at the little porthole with the little minimum and maximum lines straight on and not on an angle. Shine a flashlight in there if you have to. What I find super interesting is also that when you put fresh oil in and you run it for like 2 minutes and you look in the window, it looks like it's a little bubbly. Like it looks kind of like, I want to say like oil with bubbles in it. It's so weird. And it's like a light brown. And then once you kind of run it a few times, it goes away and turns into like regular oil. It's the weirdest thing, but I've noticed it the last couple times since I've done oil changes on this. So usually I just keep adding the oil and then starting the motorcycle, let it set for like 5 minutes until the oil level raises back to the level it needs to be. And it tends to always kind of dip a little bit low, so I just keep adding the oil until I meet that maximum fill line. And this takes about a couple tries, because you run the engine a couple times, let it rest, run the engine a couple times more, let it rest, and if that line stays there and it becomes consistent, you're pretty much set to go. So yeah, that's it. That's the procedure and some thoughts on the oil change. Now, when it comes to warranty-wise, if you are logging your oil changes and your work consistently, there's no reason why your shop believes they are the only ones that are able to do this. So, look, it's a motorcycle that's just very easy to maintain, and there's no reason you shouldn't do this yourself, provided you keep your records and be vigilant on your mileage logs. Cheers. Thanks for watching.